Hey folks, thank you guys so much for joining us for Meet Music Knoxville. That's right, it is a show where I, your host Nick Horner, has no clue what the hell is going to happen for about 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm usually engaged and enraptured by musicians and folks from right here in Knoxville that I'm meeting for the first time or having a significant conversation with for the first time, really. Mm-hmm. Before we get started today, we need to take a moment and thank our sponsors. That's what we're going to do. Had to think about it for a second, what exactly the order of operations was here. We got to thank Raven Records and Rarities, as well as Hutch and Howard Realty of Keller Williams. Thank you guys so much for supporting the station. We couldn't do this stuff without you. And so many great things happen through Real Knoxville Music. It's a really wonderful thing. And now it's time for the show. Meet Music Knoxville. Okay, so today I'm so excited. It took us months of coordination to make this happen, but I'm really excited for it to happen because I got to know this person's music, Stranger May, and I was like, okay, this person really is like beautiful arrangements, really great. Obviously, sort of a great, more softer approach to singing. It's funny. I want to dive into it, but I just remember checking it out. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I got to book you, and then months happened, and so I wish I had something more intelligent to go into. But anyway,
no.
Colleen. Okay, yes. So can you pronounce it? DeLillo? Delelio.
Yes.
Okay, I was definitely missing some.
It's okay. Yeah. I've heard Delalio, D'Angelo, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Dollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the Americanized Italian Delelio.
Yeah, Delelio. Mm-hmm. So when you did your grandparents come from Italy? How recently?
Great grandfather.
Great grandfather.
Yes.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna keep talking. I'm just gonna adjust this microphone for you for a second.
For sure.
Tell me something. When? Because you're from the Northeast as well, or you were in the Northeast just before coming down here?
Just before coming here. So I was actually born in Illinois, and then I only lived there for about a year. And then I have grown up and spent most of my life in Northern Virginia.
Oh.
So kind of Fairfax County.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 30-ish minutes from D.C., so that's every school field trip growing up. And then I went to Ithaca College to study music. So I was in upstate New York for 4 years. And then that's where I met Katie. And then we came down here in 2020. So right in the middle of the year.
Dude, same here.
Time to
same
move.
Here.
Really?
Well, ours was we were November. Early
cool.
November.
Yeah, ours was July, so
yeah.
It's not too far from.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So what was the impetus for coming to Knoxville?
So I knew that I wanted to do some songwritery things, and I thought the best place for that was going to be Nashville. Mm-hmm. After not really doing a whole lot of research, just oh yeah, that's where people go to do that, so I'm going to do it. And then Katie was like, okay, well, we're moving together. I'm willing to go to Tennessee, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But then it was in the middle of the pandemic, and she was like, I am looking for either jobs or grad school. We're going to figure out what's happening. And then she ended up emailing someone way past every possible deadline, being like, hey, can I come to UT for a grad program? And they're like, yeah, we have a TA spot open. You want to come here and we'll pay you?
No way.
So, yeah, it was awesome.
What program is she in?
So she just graduated, but she got her master's in music ed, strings specifically, and she got a certificate in theory pedagogy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's a lot to pack into a couple of years, isn't it?
It is. 2 years.
Yeah. A move and that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. But I'm really glad that we ended up here.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Nashville would have been really overwhelming. And I don't know if I had the gusto 2 years ago to really do anything in Nashville, so I'm happy that we're here. because I really like the people here that we've met and everything we've gotten to do. So
yeah,
good stuff.
I think it's. I'm from the North originally. I was in New York for 8 years. That's the other part of this show is like we basically just like, oh, cool, and oh yeah. So I was in New York for 8 years, and that's the one thing that I couldn't imagine doing in this pandemic is moving to a place like that without, it's one thing if you already know, 70 people in the music scene and, you just are really firmly established because that's a big part, like the networking element.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I had a hard enough time networking here down, like, during the pandemic. I couldn't imagine going to a place like Nashville or New York or L.A., like, during that.
Yeah. Where in New York were you? In the city or?
Yeah, it was in Brooklyn.
Okay, wow.
But I'm originally from near Elmira, New York.
Okay,
but in Pennsylvania. Like in Tioga County.
Yeah, that's fairly close to Ithaca.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my brother went to, like, wrestling camp at Cornell growing up.
Okay, cool.
So we're up there.
That's awesome.
Did you know Hank Roberts, by the way? Cello player?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, Hank was like a jazz cellist. He was sort of in the John Zorn, Bill Frisell scene, but he was actually in Ithaca. So I think
No, I believe you.
Yeah.
That's one of my bigger regrets about the 4 years that I was there is not getting out into the community enough because I was struggling enough with just trying to stay afloat in school, so I really kind of hold myself up in the music building.
Yeah.
Not so much out in the town or playing gigs or anything like that, but...
Now, was that... and no judgment by this question, like, do you some people are students and some people are like, I'd rather just be doing. Like, is it because you were working at the student piece of it, or were you just, like, seriously thinking about, did you do cello performance? Or what was your degree?
I had a weird one.
Okay.
So it was cello focused. So cello was my main instrument for my degree. It was music with an outside concentration in creative writing. So I did... it was a music degree, but then I would also have like poetry classes and fiction classes. And I didn't realize that I loved it as much as I did until I got into the program, because originally I just did it because I was like, oh, let's kind of build a songwriting degree, kind of, because we got the writing element and the music element. But then I really do like writing short stories and poetry and all that stuff too, so I got to kind of connect the dots there, which was cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, student versus in the community, I don't even know if I made it to the point where I was consciously making that decision.
Yeah.
I was just...
in it.
Just trying to get through.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had ADHD until sophomore year of college.
Oh, my gosh.
So... it was tough, but I graduated.
Yeah.
So,
well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You did it. You made it here. You're
Thank
making
God.
great music.
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, that's what it comes down to, and you're doing that successfully. So
Cool.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and funny enough, we are also. This is mostly about music, but it is taking a detour into donuts. We also both work at Status
We
Dough.
do.
Obviously, only one of us is ever there at a time, but it's
Yes.
it's sort of like sometimes I feel like you're. It's like your shadow. It's just like creeping away as I'm like coming through the door.
Walk into the downtown location. Oh, Nick was here.
Yeah, I can tell. It smells kind of funny. So
Oh,
I think Nick
no.
was here. Yeah, and so because I know you do that. Like, I mean, we all got our side hustles and stuff, and you teach. You're a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of stuff do you teach?
I teach cello and beginner piano and beginner guitar, and I have a couple preschool classes. Preschool music. So I do that afternoon/evenings, Tuesday through Friday.
Cool.
So,
That's great. And did you know you were gonna was that something you were thinking about doing, or is it just fell into it?
Just fell into it, yeah. And for a while it was kind of self-sustaining before I, had to pick up other jobs again. But it was exciting to be able to say, oh, all of my jobs are music related.
Yeah.
Like, this is so cool. But I do also like coffee, so there we go. There's that. But yeah, it just kind of happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, it's so good. So, you say jobs. Is there other stuff that you do around here?
There's one other thing besides gigging and that kind of stuff. One other thing is I work for the Knoxville Symphony Youth Orchestra.
Yeah.
I'm a rehearsal assistant there, so we have auditions coming up. But basically, you play in the orchestra with the kids, and you set up the chairs, and you
sort the music and stuff.
Sort the music, make sure everyone has a pencil. Charge $10 for pencils. Just kidding. And then, and then there's 2 to 3 concerts a year, and they get to play at the Tennessee Theater, which is awesome. So you get to play on stage on the Tennessee Theater with the kids, and just help out in rehearsal.
Dude, that's the funniest thing. So I worked at the School of Rock.
Okay.
And we did one of the shows we did. Like, I was there for 2 shows, I think, and anyway. But while I was there, we did a show at the World's Fair Park, which is just like an amazing thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny to do that as an adult, you know what I mean? And it's like, because you're with the kid, you know.
Right.
With the
so
kid.
I can say that I've played at the Tennessee Theater, but they don't know.
Yeah, they don't have to know.
I was playing quarter notes, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I spent half the time, wiping the chocolate off a kid's face, you know. But
making sure everyone had the right color tie.
Yeah. The things that happen when you work with kids. So, well, cool. And not to jump immediately off of that, but I do have to know, like, a big part of this is just like getting to know where music came from for you, all the things about you. When did you start making music as a kid? Were you young, or did you come into it a little bit later?
Very young. Both of my parents are musicians.
Really?
So I like to say in the womb, basically. My mom's a singer, and she plays a little bit of piano. She teaches elementary school general music. And then my dad is, I'll just say, multi-instrumentalist. His main instruments are bassoon, and he did drumline and like jazz piano. He plays in a ska band right now, which is cool. And he teaches band and orchestra, so he can play like
all of those,
everything, basically. And then he taught himself guitar well enough to teach it at high school, which is pretty cool. I started piano lessons at 6, and then my parents were my teachers, and that didn't last very long because they're like, we know you don't practice because you live here, and we know that you don't do it. So, and then I picked up cello in 4th grade, and then that kind of took over. And then orchestra all through high school, and decided that's what I wanted to do in college. And I started songwriting when I was around 11 or 12. And just kind of teaching myself. My dad taught me my first 3 chords on guitar. And I just started from there.
Yeah. And you primarily write on guitar. That's your...
It really depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it really easy to write on piano, just because I can visualize it a little bit better of where the chords are going. But, it really just depends. It depends on the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was it that you... Because... Well, it seems like you were songwriting early on, and that involves a lot of the self. You know, it's very... the thing, like, I tell people, it's like, even though I went to school for college, like, it wasn't until I was in college when I was, like... I really understood, like, the gravity of what it, like, meant in my life. You know, what was there, like, a point where you were like, okay, this is what I'm doing until I die? Or to some variation of that moment?
It always fluctuated. I mean, now I feel that way. But, it was always just such a significant part of my life and my family's life that if I didn't have it, it would be like, I don't know. It's like one of the basic necessities to me, you know? But I, of course, when I was like 11 and 12, had that dream of I'm going to be the next Disney Channel star. I'm going to be singer-songwriter, pop idol kind of thing. Of course. And then I also danced all the way from 3 to 17.
Oh, wow.
So,
what kind of dance?
Everything. Mostly ballet. But I did like contemporary and jazz and things like that. Modern ballet. But that was when I was thinking about colleges, kind of midway through high school. I was like, do I want to do dance or do I want to do music? So that was kind of a choice to make, and I wasn't sure about that. I always knew I wanted to do something creative, though.
Right.
That was never a question. It was just which avenue do I want to take? So then, I don't know, halfway through high school, I was like, I don't really want my career to be so dependent on how my body performs.
Yeah.
So I went with music, and it kind of, it was the right choice for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I wasn't always 100% sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, that's the tough thing about dance, right? It's like, especially if you go like this, like, you know, people working in ballet, right? They're like 20, what is it, 25, 28? Like, you're just basically like, you've shot your, if you're like seriously pursuing it.
If you can make it to your 40s as a ballet dancer, that is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
That's amazing stuff. But that being said, it's like, it's cool that you were able to figure that out. And now, do you think that like dance and movement like affects the way you write today or play today? Certainly there's an ergonomics to it that I'm sure you think about, but
yeah, that's a good question. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It
Yeah.
probably does.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this one maybe this is more of a sidebar. There's this one paper that I wrote in college about like the 1700s dance styles and how cello was played back then. And
where you hold it between the
well, then it was placed on like a pillow, and it was upright kind of more in front of you, so that you could have more of a proper, I'm doing air quotes, but proper posture to be more like how they would dance. And I just thought that intersection was so interesting, and I think I kind of carried that with me a little bit, where, I mean, even playing cello, if you can move back and forth, you're doing it right, because it means that you're relaxed and you have less tension and all that kind of thing. So I bet it would play a big part in. I haven't really.
Do you
sat
dance
down
when
and
you
thought
play the
about
cello?
it. I don't dance when I play the cello.
I mean, just like do you
oh,
sway?
like yeah, it's a good exercise to
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's fascinating. The like, how about this? When you're writing and you're producing music, is that? Well, wait. Let me take it back a second. Do you dance now? Like, do you? I mean, for fun or for whatever? Like, does that play a role in your life?
I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
I've been looking into some places around here that I could start taking classes again or join. And
yeah,
I think
you should flat foot.
What is that?
So flat footing is like Appalachian tap. It's like clogging.
Cool.
But or you should. I just, as you were talking about sort of jazz and tap. Well, you didn't say tap. I just inferred tap. But like, there's a lot of like dance traditions that are integrated with the music. Mm-hmm. Like Quebec dance style, like where they sit and they play fiddle and they like.
Yeah.
It could be. You could integrate that. You could be the like a clogging cellist or.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
That would be great.
Cool. That'd be so cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've thought about incorporating both together before. Of like, I just really like improvising, especially when it comes to dance.
Yeah.
So having some sort of loop or something going on cello and start something, and then be able to improvise to the music that I just made, or like some sort of project where I bring those together. Yeah.
Be cool.
I think it would be too.
Yeah. So when is looping a big part of your act when you're playing out, or do you write with loops? Is that?
I've dabbled.
Yeah.
No, I'm not confident enough with it to bring it in front of a group yet.
Yeah.
Because it just has to be so perfect.
Yeah.
You can't mess up. But yeah, I want to. I wanna explore more kind of electronic elements with all sorts of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a lot of ideas.
Yeah. It's a great place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to I guess I would ask this of dance too, because I am interested. But like in cello, like who are your favorite cellists that you draw from, and even who are the artists that are the most inspiring to you right now, or have been sort of informing your identity as an artist?
Yeah. Well, my favorite cellist of all time is Jacqueline Dupre.
Okay.
She was a British cellist. I just really love her interpretations on stuff. That's more on the classical side, but I just love her. But in terms of more popular music, my favorite artist has always been Bon Iver. Since I was like 12 or 13, I would listen to like For Emma forever ago, and the Bon Iver Holocene and all of those things. Oh my gosh! And then I just thought it was so cool hearing his sound evolve from that to all of the weird stuff that he does now, and I love the whole range of it. It's so cool to me. So definitely him.
Has he put out music recently?
He not recently. Checking my Spotify.
Yeah.
Let's see, because I know I was the last full album that he had, and then I think he's had a couple
singles or collabs or something.
Yeah, he had a single that came out this year with Ethan Gruska. But yeah.
Huh. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to sidetrack. Go ahead.
In terms of cellists, also Ben Soley.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. His cello is interesting. I don't know if you've known. Do you know Ben Soley?
I know him because he was in was it the Sparrow Quartet and a couple things. I don't know him super well, but he's one of those guys that's on the periphery of stuff that I listen to a lot.
He's got an interesting cello. Mm-hmm. So, like, instead of a scroll on the top of his cello, it looks more like a headstock, like on a guitar. And his cello's got this, like, rugged, like, gritty sound to it. It's more folky. Yeah. Which I love. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you know? Is it something about the cello itself, or is it just, did he beat it with a hammer a bunch until it got that sound?
I think it's a combination of his technique and his cello.
Yeah.
But also the scroll, what it does in the function of the instrument is to just kind of balance out the tone a little bit.
Huh.
So if that's not there, I can see how the resonance would be affected.
Right.
To be more of like a muted, I don't know. There's got to be something else in the build of that cello that affects it. That's not as visible, but I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they make, I'm actually in the process of starting to build, well, that's an incredible overstatement. I'm growing gourds right now to build gourd banjos.
Oh, cool.
And in the process of looking up gourd banjos, I found out about gourd fiddles, and it makes me wonder if, like, there's a gourd cello.
Oh, my
which
gosh.
would give you kind of a similar thing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just the notion of, like, because it's like, if you've ever heard gourd banjo, it's like this really dark, like, kind of gritty tone, not a whole lot of sustain. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe look into
cool.
it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Save up some money. Get one of those instrument builders to build you one. It might be
perfect.
Take the music scene by storm around here.
Oh yeah, with the gourd cello.
Yeah, the gourd cellist. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about writers though. Like, where do words come from? Where do who are the people that inspire you? What's your writing process like?
Oh.
Etc.
It's so interesting because I feel like it changes depending on the song.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want it to happen as organically as possible. It's usually, no matter what it is, it starts with one idea, whether the idea is like a phrase or it's usually a chord progression.
Mm-hmm. So you're music first, usually.
Usually, yeah. And then I'll come up with a melody, and then I'll find the right amount of syllables to fit with the melody. Is usually what happens, but not always. Yeah, there was this one song that I just wrote. I just finished, I'm just going to call it the first draft of it yesterday. I wrote about 7 verses that I hated that never made it into the song before I found out what I actually wanted to say. And I was so frustrated, and I hated all of it.
Yeah.
So then I changed around the chords, and then I guess I found it a little bit. And then I was able to write the verses that I actually wanted. Mm-hmm. But, it really changes. And it also depends on if I'm writing on guitar or piano or cello. Because that changes as well.
Yeah.
So.
What for you are those, like, I'm curious, like, how about this? My interpretation of it, as someone who writes on different instruments as well, is I find that it's like on on guitar, I'm more likely to go for things that feel really good. And on piano, I feel like literally it could go anywhere. You know what I mean? Because it's like all chords. I mean, things feel better than others, but they kind of all, they're all accessible.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, I was actually talking to Katie about this one day. She's like, I feel like I can tell where you wrote things based on what is in there musically. Like, if there are more, if there's more of a rhythm to it, or, if there's more of a rhythm to it, or sometimes if there's a lot more seventh chords, that's probably guitar. If there's a lot of triads, and it just like probably piano. And then, or if it's like slow chords, it's also probably piano. And then cello, I have a lot of trouble writing on cello, but I've been trying to push myself to do it, just because the arrangement has to be so much more specific. It's not like, and then here is this chord, and here. Well, I mean, I can do that, but it's it takes a little more thinking. So,
well, it's tough because it's like if you're a chord first person with cello, it's like you're basically starting with melody. You know, even if you're chording, right? It's I had the same thing when writing on bass. Is that it's like I'm writing a bass line. But, like, because I'm a musician, I want it to be a musical bass line, not da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
You know? So you're immediately thrust into that process of self-judgment. You know?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it's still a little bit more chordal on cello, because there are specific hand shapes. Like, if I bar two strings and then do half step up on the next string, there's a minor chord, no matter where I put it.
Right.
Anywhere. Or major chord, just a half step up, like, no matter where I put it. So I think I start there usually. Is with chords. With chords. But
and there's a strong precedent for
still
cellist chording, you know, right? Because, I mean, Ben does that, and, like, do you know Rashad Eggleston?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Dude.
There's a video of him swirling on a chair, just plucking his cello and talking about bunnies.
Insane dude.
Yeah, there is not as much of a precedent as there is for melody.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. But
yeah. Well, so, you know, you have the record that I listened to. Again, like I said, it's like I listened to it right when I was like, okay, I gotta book this girl. And then I haven't had a chance to dive into it. But tell me about that process. Did you record that? Was that like all you? Did you work in a studio? Did you work with other people?
So this one was interesting because it took me 3 years.
So this one. So you've done before.
Not a full album.
Not a full album.
No. I've never recorded in a studio. Actually, that's not true. I did one old version of Coffee. It was the first, like, song I ever recorded with someone who had a little more experience with recording. So my first single ever, I recorded in my living room with my dad. And then I released that under an old name.
What was it?
The Coda Project.
The Coda Project.
Yeah,
but
it's
that.
D''A.
Oh,
because my last C-O for Colleen, D''A for Delilio is Coda. But if you search Coda on Spotify, it gets you like 10 million results. And it wasn't working. So I changed the name. But this album, I started working with my friend David in college. And then it was his junior year, my senior year. And then we got Katie's bass lines down March 1st of 2020.
Oh, man.
Something like that. And that was the first thing we had recorded. And then it was like, whoop, well, I guess we're not coming back to school for the rest of senior year. Whoops. And then, so we had to figure out a way to do that. So what happened is, Jake, the drummer, he met in person with David months down the line. And they recorded drums and a little bit of cajon in person. But that was the only thing that was recorded in person. So I had a mic at home, and I recorded cello, guitar, and my voice. And then I also recorded Katie's parts because some of her files got lost. So then we had to re-record the electric bass parts. And then the saxophone player was in Rochester. The keys player was in New Hampshire. So all of us recorded our own parts separately and then submitted them to Google Drive.
Yeah.
And then David is a hero because he coordinated putting all of the parts together and adding all of the little flares and all of the cool things that made it cool. So it was a long process.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of, okay, listen to this mix and send me back like 3 pages of notes on Google Drive, and I'll read it and see what we need to do. But, yeah, it took a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, had you guys played together live before that? Like
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Only a few, well, more than a few times. More than a few times. So,
Was it, and was it enough that everyone like sort of like felt like they had the parts, and that it was basically just like you're putting down the arrangement that we had already done, you know, or was it building those arrangements in real time, like with the studio?
Mostly just doing an arrangement that we already had. But for some of those parts, enough time had passed since we had rehearsed it last. It'd be like a year and a half. I'd be like, do you remember what you did? No? Okay. Yeah. So for a bunch of parts, I wrote out sheet music. And I sent them out that
What do you
way.
do for your sheet music? Do you do online or do it by hand?
Yeah,
or
I do
computer?
MuseScore because it's free.
Oh, yeah.
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 But one of those songs, actually, Blood, I didn't know what I wanted to do with that one, and I was really stressing about it. Bless you. And I don't know, I didn't know what direction I wanted to take it. I had chords on piano, and I had a melody, and I knew I wanted to do something else. It was like, wasn't enough for this one. And then there was 1 week where I was like, I know, I'm going to write a saxophone quartet. I spent a week and wrote a saxophone quartet, and that's what we ended up doing. That's
very Bon Iver.
Yes. It was, so 45 is like underscore 45 underscore. That was inspired by that saxophone sound.
Wow.
So the notes in the sheet music are like as breathy as humanly possible. Like, don't actually make any noise.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I like that song a lot.
Yeah. So, if you're just want some beautiful music to listen to at some point, that breathy thing reminded me. There's this great album of Jan Gerberich, who's like the jazz sax dude, and the Hilliard Ensemble.
Okay.
If you know them, they're just like, they do like a lot of like Renaissance era and Baroque chamber music.
Cool.
And so they do that. They're singing in a church, and then he goes over the top, and it's like,
I love that.
It's the most beautiful thing.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So it's out there. That's all. Just
I
throw it
love
out there.
saxophone.
Yeah.
So much.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you have a favorite saxophone?
Like
In the family of saxophone?
Probably alto, but I do like tenor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what do you have an inclination toward other instruments that you don't, even ones you haven't worked with? I have like mine is bass. I mean, I love bass clarinet. But that's probably my favorite instrument.
Yeah, I love bass clarinet too. My brother plays clarinet. He's got a whole range of stuff.
Oh, really?
I like. There's a lot of percussion instruments that I really like orchestral percussion instruments.
Oh yeah.
Or like harp.
Yeah.
Harp.
I just
so
met
cool.
a harpist here recently, which is funny because she came into the coffee shop and said, "I'm trying to play at cafes, and I'm going to give you this low rate of like, I think $100 to like play harp for an hour which is, I mean, for a classical musician, like that is a low rate.
That's very low, yeah.
But also for
especially
someone coming
for a
into
harpist.
Right. That's a lot to carry around. But then also for a cafe that doesn't have live music at all, and most of them don't.
Yeah.
It's also sort of a little bit of a disconnect.
Right.
Fascinating thing to have happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, all this to say, you mentioned you have a brother who plays clarinet. Do you have other siblings who play music?
Yes.
Okay.
My youngest sibling plays flute.
Got it.
Yes.
So you could do a family band.
We could do a family band.
Yeah.
We could. I think we all have very different taste in music.
Oh, yeah?
So I don't know if we could agree on what to play on, but
yeah.
maybe
But
one
it's
day.
possible.
It's possible. It's
Now,
definitely
when you guys
possible.
get together for holidays, like, is there any version of getting together and making music? Have you done that before? Made music with everyone in the family?
Yeah. The thing that's coming to mind is St. Patrick's Day. Because my family... So we are Italian, but we're also very Irish. Hence my first name.
Yeah.
Which I think is funny. My dad just named... Well, I guess it was both my parents, huh? But they always joke that my dad named his girl Girl. Because that's what my name means.
Really?
Is girl. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
If you ever hear any Irish songs that are like, Colleen, blah, 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 blah.
That just...
It just means
generically
this girl.
this
Yeah.
girl.
Her name is probably not Colleen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, surprise.
I love always learning something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we would sing some Irish songs. There's a couple that would... Someone would bust out a guitar or piano or something.
Yeah.
Like, no, nay, never... Da, 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 da. We'd all just be singing Irish tunes.
So but that's like a thing. Like, y'all would like... Wow. That's cool.
fun.
Did you have any other, like... I guess it's not really traditional Italian music in that same way.
Not in my family,
Yeah.
usually. It's usually food focused when it comes to culture
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating stuff. Did you, any other type of... do you have any other musical family traditions like that? Or I don't know. I'm fascinated by it because it's like, man, it's like... Imagine all of that musical information you were soaking up as a kid that you were like not even conscious of.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I joked earlier about, like, in the womb kind of thing, but there is... So when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad would come up and, like, tap on her belly and be like, don't have your mother's sense of rhythm. Don't have your mother's sense of rhythm. So there's always been a little bit of influence from very early on. But even... as like a young musician in school learning cello and things like that, it was a blessing and a curse to have musician parents at home because on one hand they could really support me when it came to practicing and making sure that I was reading things correctly, and if I had a question they could answer it. But then on the other hand I was like, I want to do it by myself.
Yeah.
And I would be upstairs practicing and my dad would be downstairs and be like, you're flat. I'm like, I know. That's why I'm practicing it. But, yeah. So it definitely more of a blessing than a curse. I'm mostly joking, but yeah. It's a unique experience.
Now, did your parents? Because I know your dad is in the ska band. Did they write music too?
My dad does. Yeah, he composes, and he's working with a couple like indie film directors, like scoring some little short movies and things like that, which is awesome. He has written a piece for, it was like a middle school DC honor band, and he got to teach the kids his piece and perform it with them, which is awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Nice.
My mom has written too. She this is very sweet. So for my high school graduation present, she gave me her guitar, which was...
Do you play that now?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't play it out.
Yeah.
But it's this very nice Fender classical guitar. And I was just playing it the other day, actually. But she wrote me a song on that guitar and sang it and played it for me and then gave me the guitar. It's like, I'm not going to cry. It's very sweet. Yeah, so that's got special memories attached to it.
Yeah.
So...
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Now, so you went from a family that plays music to... I'm sorry, is Katie your partner?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Girlfriend, partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're sort of in that boat, too. I use the word partner because it's like, at a certain point, like, It's not.
It feels classier. It's a little more mature and like established.
And less like, in 2 weeks we're going to get in a fight at the soda fountain and,
right.
break up. But we'll get back together because we always do.
Right.
Yeah.
More long-term sounding.
Yeah. So it's funny. You went from like being with a musical family to basically forming another musical family.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Do you guys... I mean, I definitely have seen videos of you guys playing together. Mm-hmm. Like, is that a thing that's a part of your experience? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
And we've talked a lot. We approach music in very different ways, which I think is awesome. I always joke also that so Katie's major was music education. Her master's is in music education, and both of my parents were music education majors. So I feel like I'm surrounded.
Yeah.
Music ed people, just through osmosis. I feel like I have a music ed degree myself. But,
there you go.
Yeah, so we've talked about if we approach music the same way, we would get into so many more fights.
Yeah.
But since we're so different when it comes to music, so she plays bass, and she is so analytical when it comes to music. She loves theory. She loves, like, piecing things together in that way. She also has perfect pitch. So she's, like, always thinking of where am I in this chord and where am I going next. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I really can't think that way. Half the time when I'm playing something, I couldn't tell you what note that I'm playing, which is a little bit embarrassing. But if I stop and think about it for 2 seconds, I can tell you, like, oh, that's an A. But
right.
I'm more thinking in shapes, and I'm more thinking in feelings, I guess, and what this sounds like together, because I rely on my ear a lot.
Yeah.
And I can break it down analytically. It just takes me a lot longer than it takes her. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating, and that's a fascinating thing too, as someone who clearly has, like, you clearly are very steeped in music and you understand music, but like to defaulting to the ear, like always. It's it goes back. Well, it's funny because I'm sort of that way too, so I connect with it. But also goes back to this thing that I remember some music theory teacher telling me at some point, that it's like, or just the reminder, it's like the music came first, then the theory.
Yeah.
And so, like,
these are just names for things we already understood.
Yeah. Yeah. Or as a way of trying to understand it. So it's like you as a writer are constantly in that state of, like, it's almost better if you don't know, because that state of wonder is really what you're trying to capture. Not did I do a like a 2/4 inversion that leads to a whatever.
Right.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. I think I always used to get really annoyed with theory.
Yeah.
Especially when I was told to learn it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, none of this makes any sense to me. I don't know, why do I have to do math? I don't like this. And then I think after graduating, and now that there's not a grade attached to it, I have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah.
Especially teaching, like, the very basics to some of my students. I'm like, oh, but this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm starting to get into the circle of fifths with one of my piano students.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't even understand how cool this is about to be. Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
So get ready for your brain to explode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate it a lot more now. But I still, like we were talking about, I default to let me just listen to it and see what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think you make a good point. It's like you sort of need both. Well, I don't know that you made this point, or as I just am jumping to it. You need both.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really need both. So, talk to me about your current stuff here, because I mean, you mentioned that you had just like finished a song. Do you write every day?
Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
No.
Do you write on any sort of schedule, or is it like really just like whenever an idea or an emotion comes?
Idea and emotion. Yeah. I've tried to write on a schedule before, and I've learned that I really just have to work with my brain. Because having ADHD and, like, a certain amount of structure I really do need, but too much structure is too much. It doesn't work. I don't, if I'm like, all right, I need to sit down and be creative for an hour, that doesn't, my brain doesn't
in and of
listen
itself,
to me.
that's a weird statement.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do want to get more into... I had a dry spell for a long time, especially finishing up that album. Although, because that album took so long to finish, I've basically written another album during the time that I was recording the first one. So I do have a lot of stuff. And I have some things that I'm excited about. I'm thinking of doing another single or maybe a couple. I have an idea for an EP, and I just have a lot of things that I just need to iron out.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
What's that process going to look like when you go to do that again? Is it going to be, now that you figured out how to go to remote, is it going to be like that? Or
See, I'm torn because I do like the idea of recording in person in a studio. But I also really like David and his work. And he is in Boston.
Yeah.
So
David, the producer.
Yes.
Yeah.
He works at NEC now. He's one of the sound guys over there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we understand each other in a way that is very helpful for me as the songwriter to be like, this is what I want. I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
I understand that that's what you want, and I'm going to do it.
And so when you're conveying those terms, you know, well, you exist in a really interesting place, and I'd be fascinated to see those 3 pages of notes because you understand music in a way of like measure 15 needs to have, you know, the cello needs to go up, you know, a little bit or in decibels, but then also like there's a certain point where it's like if you don't know the recording side, right? How do you explain that something needs to feel more blue? Or I'm sorry, blue is an actual sound the term that we use. You know, I've worked with songwriters before who are like, I don't know, it just needs to have more chazah, you know? And you're like, and then you as the producer are like, all right, let's add some chazah. Yeah. You know?
I am guilty of that a little bit.
Yeah.
But David is always like, okay, I need you to tell me what that means, though.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. My notes tend to be like, this timestamp to this timestamp, I don't like this sound effect here, or this needs to be louder, or I don't need to hear this melody, or can we cut this part out entirely? It's more of that. If it's an overall thing that I'm trying to say, I tend to say like warmer, or something sounds like tinny here.
Yeah.
Or this sounds really bright. Or I don't know. It is a weird place to be where I understand a little bit.
Yeah.
But not enough to be very specific with my notes about like timbre.
Yeah.
And things like that. So.
Well, and also it's like understanding like the roles of plugins and things like that is like huge. Because, I mean, the engineers are like they're the fifth Beatle, you know, now. It's like with recorded music, so.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. So it's funny to just connect with all that.
For sure.
So, because, well, you can now. See, now I just want to like dive off. I was like, well, why don't you just record with a band and then send it up to him to do the mix and you know and.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of that too. Yeah. I think this time, if I were to do it again, I would definitely structure things a bit differently now that we understand kind of how this process would work. Whereas I would have everything done ahead of time, all of the parts recorded, and then send everything to him in a nice little package like, this is what I need, and here is a brief page of notes, and here's the demo. Yeah. That's what I would do. But, yeah, not, well, here's the drums today, and next week I'll see if I can get the keys to you. So.
Well, it's easier then, too, because it's like you're familiar with what you're sending, especially if you can, like, edit them to get, you know, just basically you do the editing and then send it. That's, The, shit. Oh, do you play with a live band here? Like, do you play out with a full band? I have once, and I want to do it more. Cool. Yeah, so who are your people? Like, who are your... So, Katie plays bass for me. Karen and Josh, they're married. Karen Christie, Josh Christie. Karen's actually the new orchestra director at Bearden High School. Oh, so, cool. So, she plays keys a little bit, too. She's mainly a violinist. And then... Wait. Hold on a second. This is hilarious.
I think I saw something on Facebook where she said something about Carol Cart, if that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, we were supposed to get on a phone call yesterday.
You know what's so funny about that is she, sorry, Karen, she messaged Katie and was like, I don't know who he is. Is he cool? Do we trust him?
Okay.
And Katie was like, yeah. Like, don't worry. Yeah. Sorry, Karen.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Katie. Karen, you can trust me. Don't worry.
And then her husband, Josh, plays drums. He is excellent.
Yeah.
He is very, very good. He doesn't play out a whole lot, but I wish he would.
Yeah.
He's very good. Well, I guess both of them play with me, Katie, Karen, and Josh play with Robert and Deborah out in Oak Ridge, and in a band called Gen X for Fun. And it's a bunch of 80s, 90s, 2000s covers, and we play around a bunch of bars. We are starting to do second Saturdays at Mind Your P's and Q's.
Cool.
So we'll be doing that. But I play with, where was I? Sorry. Can you tell I have ADHD? Karen, Katie, Josh, and then Sid. Warren, who plays saxophone.
Oh, you got your sax.
Yeah.
There you go. Does he play it? He, she,
he.
They. Alto, tenor. What is?
I think he plays both.
Both in the in your group. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we've only played together once, but I had a great time, and he's excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to ask him for other things as well. So
nice.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's releasing music also. I think he's got
cool.
an EP.
What's it
coming
under?
Out. I think it's Sid Warren. Let me find out. It might take me a minute.
Oh, it's okay. Oh, we can talk about it later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So awesome. And so that's recording. There's that. Oh wait, I want to squeeze this in just because I'm sort of just rattling through all the things that I wanted to ask. So this is this question I always ask everyone because I think it's weirdly. What was your first CD? Or I'm trying to think. How old are you?
I'm 24. Well, I'm almost 24.
You're almost 24. So you had a CD. Well, your parents were musicians.
So
what was the first music that you had that was yours?
Very funny.
Yes, go ahead.
So in kindergarten,
yes,
my parents decided for Christmas what they were going to do is they were going to record an album of me singing and pass it out to the family. So
what?
They just played it for Katie recently.
Oh my god!
As like, let's embarrass our daughter in front. But it was like 5-year-old me singing, "There are many things I am thankful."
Oh my gosh!
And it was like 30 minutes of that.
Wow.
There was that one. There was Silent Night.
The classics, yeah.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course. So that was, I guess, my first recorded music. Was 5 years old, singing a little Christmas EP.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So first of all, that's amazing, and I thank you for sharing that with the world. We're going to look for it on Spotify.
Oh,
here.
I wish it was on Spotify, but...
I mean, we can social media our way to your parents and just like let them know, hey, just by the way, if you wanted to release it.
That's funny.
No, but what was in your life? What was the first CD you got? Or the first like music that you got that was like yours?
I own this.
Yeah. My
first CD was a Hillary Duff CD.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had a boombox in my room. Mm-hmm. I would play the CD on my little boombox. And that was the one with So Yesterday, and there was a track called The Girl Can Rock. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Just jumping on the bed and, yeah.
What was her show? Lizzie McGuire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. She, I never got into her music, but I remember watching that show a lot. Mm-hmm. Do you find that any of that is in your music today in any way? Or did it affect sort of your approach to making music in any way?
That's a good question. I think there was a little bit of a sense of girl power that I've just always kind of had a little bit that I carry through. But I think, honestly, something that has been even more influential was I had this little bedtime story cassette tape that my mom would put on for us. Mm-hmm. And it was Irish stories. And then there was like a Hawaiian one with Hawaiian music. and and they would have like the accents, and there is like folk tales and things like that, and there's a little bit of music in that. We would listen to that to fall asleep.
Whoa.
So I think some Celtic influence, has made its way in somehow. Like snuck its way in. That's the only time I can do an Irish accent. Is
when you're reciting those tales?
No, there's part of the story where she's like, potatoes for lunch. Potatoes. It's not even good, but anyways. But yeah, I think there's more of that influence than Hilary Duff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hilary Duff. But
I think she's doing okay.
I think she'll be fine.
Didn't they just reboot that?
What's that?
I feel like they just tried to reboot something. I feel like I saw her recently on a show.
It's possible. Or was it Allie and AJ? Because they just redid some of their stuff.
No, is it Sex in the City? That they try to come up with some contemporary... We're going to look this up after.
Okay.
We're like almost done. Anyway, so we actually are to that point. So,
okay.
So this has been awesome. Tell people where we find your music. How are we accessing it?
Everything is under Stranger May. I post a lot of things on Instagram. It's stranger.may.music. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever, under Stranger May, spelled the normal way, and Facebook, although I'm not on there as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly Instagram and Spotify.
Got it. So we'll send people there.
Cool.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah.
It was so good to actually sit down with you.
I agree.
And thank you for coming here. All of that clatter was they just put speed bumps out here. And
did they?
Yeah, and just like this street is notorious for just...
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good. I'm enjoying this like porch talk kind of vibe here.
Yeah.
It's very
cool.
cool.
It's good. We keep it informal here.
Little crickets.
Yeah. Which is funny because like the new space is in the Sun Sphere.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's really great. It's gorgeous up there. So you just have to imagine though that we're looking out over Knoxville instead of my dying tomato plants out here. Anyway, thank you so much. This is great. One more time, I got to say thank you to Hutch and Howard Realty of Keller Williams and Raven Records and Rarities. And I think those are the two right now. We couldn't do it without you. And we can do it without you, the listeners to this show. Thank you for tuning in to Real Knoxville Music. We will be on next month on the last Friday of the month. So we will see you then. Have a good day.
thunder's cloud of the wind.